All right, you hear the intro music. Welcome back, folks. I know you missed me. This is the official first episode of My Movie Fix. As you know, I am Sir. Every week I'm going to have a guest on that just loves to talk about movies as much as I do, and one of the few people I know that probably loves it more. Buddy Vito here. Vito, you mind introducing yourself, telling folks about you, who you are?
Of course, yeah. Thanks for having me on. I don't know if I love him more than you do. I don't know if I love talking about him more than you do. But what I can say is that we're both desperate to get our fix, and I'm here to do it with you tonight. But yeah, I'm Vito, and I'm from the Not Your Father's Movies podcast. We cover dad movies over there, and I don't know if the one we're going to cover tonight qualifies, but maybe we'll discuss it.
Okay, I haven't been on your show yet, but I have disagreements as about how you qualify dad movies sometimes. And this was going to be a firm no in the dad. If you're asking me, this was a firm no in the dad movie column. But this week's episode, obviously, if you see the title of the episode, it's going to be Promising Young Women. We're going to talk about that in a bit. But first, we start off. I'm going to start a little bit of movie news. Vito's going to pick his favorite. He's the guest. He's going to pick his favorite news item of the week, and then I will pick mine. Afterwards, we'll each give you a recommendation, either a movie or TV show, something we just think you guys should check out. Afterwards, obviously, that'll be our full review. You know, I'm anti-spoilers, so as usual. You'll have a few minutes of us talking spoiler-free. We'll let you know when the spoilers come, and then we'll do a spoiler deep dive, and then we'll give you a little send-off. So yeah, that's the structure of the pod. And without further ado, I know you've missed me podcasting for so long, so let's jump right into it. Vito, you're our guest. What is your favorite news item of the week?
It's a big news item, right? It's a big one.
Nothing really is happening as far as I can tell.
Things kept trucking along, normal as always, things being pushed back or re-released for the pandemic.
Is it somebody being cast in something, some TV show? Anything. What big happened? I don't know. You tell me. I don't know of any big news that happened this week. So let's find out.
Just like it's a small thing, Marvel movies just announced their Phase 4 slate plus release dates plus titles of movies.
That did happen. That did happen. Oh.
Yeah, tiny news, but I want to talk about it, and I hope you'll indulge me.
I mean, you're our guest. I might as well. And for the listeners, we're recording this on May 5th. So yeah, the weekend you're listening to it, you may be like, yeah, nothing big did happen. No, we're recording this in the past, so the Marvel news did just drop. So it is kind of the biggest exciting thing. Actually, that's going to be a piece of my news as well, if you know me. But so yeah, what is your? I guess what are your overall thoughts about this Marvel lineup? Any big standouts for you?
Just a couple that I think are interesting anyway. I think it's really funny that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 is not until 2023. I feel like that might be too long to even understand what that movie is going to look like. And I thought for sure after Endgame, I knew exactly what it was going to be like. And now I have no idea. We have another Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, I guess, which is going to be there. Not a big fan of Ant-Man or the Wasp.
Wow.
Sorry. Are you a big fan?
I wouldn't say big fan, but they're enjoyable. They're not bottom tier for me. So and I feel like, especially with the multiverse stuff coming up, I feel like they're gonna fit right in. They're gonna be kind of a hinge point to all this, for lack of a better word, madness that's gonna happen. So I can understand what what's going on with them. But it's one of those things where when I'm watching Ant-Man or even Ant-Man and the Wasp, they're enjoyable to watch. I'm having a good time, but as soon as they're over, I'm not like, oh, that was one of my favorites. Can't wait to rewatch that again. I did a rewatch of all 22 or whatever movies, probably about.
You're insane.
Yeah, it was about 2 months ago, and just I was just going through them all, and it was one of the ones where I wasn't really looking forward to them. I was just kind of watching them in order. But as I'm watching them, like, oh, this is a fun movie. But then as soon as they're over, it's kind of like, it's just they don't have that sticking power. But they were much better movies than I remember. So I'll give it that.
That might be fair. I haven't watched either of them more than the one time, and maybe like you're saying, I never wanted to, which kind of. So I am excited to see how they become important because they never seemed important. So that'd be fun. And in another way, too, I'm wondering about the Marvels. I'm guessing this is Captain Marvel and Miss Marvel together.
No, now if you're talking about movies I don't care about, now we're talking. Captain Marvel did absolutely nothing for me. I think those are the worst movies of the series. which I don't even know her name. The new Captain Marvel from WandaVision, the black lady.
Oh no, she's a different character.
I know I know she's not Captain Marvel, but she's one of the Marvels. Whatever her name is, I
forget
care.
her name.
Like I said,
I forget her name.
Yeah, it's like I don't care about quote unquote Captain Marvel. I don't care about I haven't seen this new the little girl Captain Marvel. That may be an interesting movie, but as of right now, the Brie Larson does nothing for me as a superhero. So I'm just that's the one I'm least interested in.
I agree with you. And maybe before we jump to the next one in chronology, which I know that you're champing at the bit to do, let's just race through these real quick. Black Widow, yay or nay for you?
I saw Red Sparrow, so I think I'm good. I think I'm good. So I don't know. We'll see. Like I said, it's one of those things where I'm going to watch it because it's Marvel, but I'm not necessarily excited to see it. But, yeah.
I'm here for Florence Pugh, and that's pretty much how I would classify my excitement. But Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, I like.
Let's see.
Sure,
let's find out.
Eternals, Best Director, Oscar-winning Chloe Zhao with her Marvel movie.
Well, it's one of those things where I have no idea what I'm about to see. So, I'm excited that way. I'm a big fan of movies where I just don't understand what's happening. So I'm not watching any trailers for Eternals when they drop. I didn't watch this little Marvel the video because I don't want to see anything. If I know I'm going to see it, I know I'm going to see it. So I want to be as unspoiled or whatever going to the movie theater. And so just with watching
Angelina Jolie
just won the Oscar.
Nomadland.
See, I'm sorry, I'm terrible. But yeah, watching Nomadland, I don't. What am I walking into? How does that person make a superhero movie? So
what does it look like when someone punches someone in one of her movies? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to it that way because it's going to be new characters. I don't know, a completely unknown director. Well, not unknown director, but unknown in this genre director. So yeah, I mean, the writer was awesome, but superhero movie. So yeah,
movies.
Yeah, so I'm excited, and for that way because I don't know what I'm going to get, and I like being excited about not knowing what I'm going to get because, hate it or love it, I feel like I know what I'm going to get with Ant-Man 3. It's like
sure.
I don't know what the storyline's going to be. I don't know what's going to happen, but you kind of know what you're going to get when you walk into it. With the Eternals, I have no idea. So
yeah, I vibe very strongly with what you say. And I have to say, coming up, Spider-Man No Way Home, I'm a big Spider-Man fan. I am not a big fan of Tom Holland as Spider-Man.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
I know. I like that he's a kid. I like that he's geeky. He's like a good Peter Parker, but just the movies surrounding him, both Homecoming and Far From Home, I just really didn't dig him. And so this one,
I think that's fair. I don't think I dug the movies, but I like him as Peter Parker.
He's the youngest one. He's the youngest Peter Parker, and it's like it makes sense now to see from the comics and everything. I just wish the movies were better.
I feel like that's what people said about Andrew Garfield because he was kind of younger and kind of quirky or whatever. But I feel like Tom Holland I don't know. Like I said, I grew up with
Toby.
So I grew up with Toby, but it's like, I don't know. When I think of Spider-Man, I don't think of Tobey Maguire, even though I love, Spider-Man 2 or whatever, but I feel like this is Spider-Man to me, even though, like I said, I'm 32. So this is the newest Spider-Man to me, but I don't know. He just fits the vibe of who I picture Spider-Man in my head as better.
Good call. And I do echo a lot of the same way. And I am excited to see like, how are they going to do Into the Spider-Verse, but live action? Like that'll be interesting to see. Alfred Molina is going to be here. Who, I don't know. We'll see. But one I am super excited for is Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Sam Raimi back in the director's chair. Give it to me. Give it to me now.
I'm very excited because we've only had one Doctor Strange movie, so I get to see two more. That's very. I don't know. It's when you're watching number 3, you feel like you're getting that wrap up. So no matter what happens, it's gonna kind of end with a bow at the end. But with this, anything can happen. So I'm just and anything can happen in a movie with magic. That anything can happen. So I'm
There's reality bending. There's time bending. There's fucking buildings folding in on themselves. Like, who knows what this is going to look from a master of indie horror, Sam Raimi, who has been away for so long. Like, what even is this? It'll be great. But the penultimate before the ultimate, Thor, Love and Thunder. I'm really excited for this. I really am excited for this one too. I love Ragnarok, and I really kind of miss Natalie Portman, and I like that she's coming back and that she gives a shit again and wants to try again. And I love Christian Bale as a weird skinny bad guy. I'm down for all this stuff. This just looks like the kind of, just like Doctor Strange, like the sort of insanity that I really like in my comic book movies. Do you vibe with that at all?
I feel like people like Ragnarok more than I do, so I think I like that, obviously the best of the Thor movies, but I don't
Not
know
hard.
if I don't know if I'm just, I feel like Doctor Strange is kind of, that's my upper tier, and I feel like people like Ragnarok because it was a little funnier, had more humor, had more quirkiness or whatever, but I don't know. I think Natalie Portman's kind of a wet blanket in my opinion, so I don't know.
Oh,
she's gorgeous.
Insulted my girl.
She's absolutely gorgeous, so
and talented.
I watch her, yeah,
and talented.
Whatever, Black Swan, whatever,
But, Black Swan, man, we're gonna have to stop. We're gonna have to stop.
I don't know. I mean, it was, we can. That's for another podcast. But yeah, so I mean, I'm interested, but I don't know if I'm excited. Like I say, Doctor Strange was multiverse. What is it?
Multiverse of Madness.
Madness, yeah. That one, I think that out of everything coming out, well, not everything, but that's my second to most excited to see. Actually, you know what? I'm going to put it first for reasons we'll discuss when it comes up. But the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, that's my most anticipated Phase 4 movie. So
very cool.
Yeah,
I think it's very close for me there too. But there is one that we've left off.
Is there?
I think there's one because I think this is the one that you wanted to talk about the most anyway.
Yes. So when we just insight to the listeners, I met Vito because I'm just one of those weirdos that I'm real picky on my podcast, right? I wish there was a way on Spotify to block podcasts because I'll start listening to a podcast I know I didn't like, and then I'll remember why I didn't like it, and I get mad at it, and I want to block it, but I can't, and I know I'll come back into it a month later because I did that to all my podcasts. So I don't have anything to listen to now. But anyway, so I'm listening to Not Your Father's Movies. I'm like, I dig this vibe. These guys kind of share my, my sentiment. I'm like, so I just shot them an email like, hey, do you need a guest? Because that's another reason why I'm doing this podcast now, is because I needed my fix. I needed to be able to talk about movies. If you checked out the website previously, I tried writing about them. It's just when you write about movies, you kind of got to come at them from an angle, or you can't really just review them to say, hey, I like this, I didn't like this. You kind of got to come at it from an angle, and that's what the kind of story has to be about, and X amount of words, and just it's not as fun as just kind of talking about them. So anyway, I say that to say, when I talked to him, he was like, hey, yeah, I checked out your stuff. It seemed cool. What do what kind of movie do you want to talk about?
I remember
what do you think about Black Panther? Sir, I don't think that should be my first episode, because I'm going to overwhelm your listeners, because Black Panther is my jam. I love Black Panther more than anybody I know, even people that liked it. It's just, I don't know, walking out of them, not even walking out. When that movie ended, something about that, the credit sequence with the music and the colors, I absolutely love the movie. And then the credit sequence just kind of stuck me to my chair. It was so perfect. The song was perfect. And I don't know. That movie had a real big effect on me. And that movie meant a lot to me. So yeah, I said all that to say, yes, I am looking forward to Wakanda Forever. That is the name of the Black Panther 2, but it's one of those things where Black Panther meant a whole lot to me, so it's just like watching a sequel. It's just so dicey, it's so, I don't want it to ruin the image of what I have in my heart, because you can, it's so, what is it? The Before series, Before Sunrise, Sunset, Midnight, those are the only trilogy movies I've ever seen in my life where it's just better. Well, it was like Terminator, stuff like that where it gets cool or whatever, but
sure,
just having the impact of Before Sunrise, Before Sunset. I mean, I got to do an episode. I don't know who. Eventually, I'm gonna have to do an episode on Before Sunset because
I'm sitting right here, man. I'm sitting right here.
I don't know. Just of all the romantic movies I've ever seen, it's just when she goes, you're gonna miss your train or you're gonna miss your plane, and he goes, I know. He goes, I know. Nothing has ever landed on me like that. Anyway, so it's like it's very hard to land that second movie like that on me, So I'm just scared that Black Panther 2, because people had complaints about the CGI. They had complaints they didn't like the story for this reason or for that reason. I'm just worried they're going to tweak it. And with, Chadwick dying, I don't know how they're going to make that work, whether they already had because I believe he told Ryan Coogler, if I'm not mistaken, and like the Kevin Feige, something like the Bidwigs about how sick he was, so maybe they had some sort of script or whatever, just kind of, thinking about, what contingency plan of what might be or whatever. But so I'm hoping the script can somehow, like, as big of an impact as Black Panther had on me, if Black Panther 2, even with Chadwick dying, if they can somehow make that work and make that land, that's such a high bar that that's why I put, Doctor Strange ahead of it, because that's such a high bar for me to walk out of that movie feeling like I'm not souring on Black Panther 1. They did this landed just as good, and I'm just as so that's I'm just nervous. I'm very much looking forward to it. I love Black Panther, and I'm very much looking forward. I'm just scared because I feel like I'm not going to feel the same the day after that comes out as I felt the day before. Just I don't know. So yeah, sorry that's just a snippet. If you guys ever invite me on the Black Panther, that's just a taste of what you're gonna get. That's gonna be a 4 hour pod.
I think we're gonna have to. I don't know how we can't.
Yeah, that's a 4 hour pod. But yeah, so that's my thoughts.
If I could just address just two things real quick. Number one, the reasons for the listeners that Sterling has not been on our show yet is because we have a big backlog ahead of us, but he will be on our show in the next upcoming months. So stay tuned for that. We'll make sure to let everyone know. It's scheduled. But then number two, I'm so glad that you love that moment from Before Sunset, because the way that listening to Nina Simone in her kitchen and she's dancing and she does the Nina Simone voice to him, it just, the tears. I feel like my face is getting hot. My face is getting hot.
You're gonna miss your plane, baby. Yeah, I know.
I don't
know that. I don't know. You kidding? I don't know. That's just okay. Slight tangent. Just who cares? Whatever. It's gonna be a long podcast. Slight tangent. But just the when the what was the oh goodness, Captain America Civil. What was the second Infinity War Part 1? I believe.
Oh, I think it's just Infinity War.
Yeah, Infinity War. Sorry, my mind's razzled. But yeah, so a spoiler alert for Infinity War. But when the end of the movie came and half the people just died, and then credits, like a lot of people didn't like that because they knew, it's going to come back or whatever. But that's a $200 million movie with huge super, like the balls on Marvel to do that.
Yeah.
Like when I walked out of that movie theater, I was shook. I was like, what did I just watch? That's really how they ended this movie?
I felt like my heart got ripped out of my chest.
We're not going to find out for months or whatever. Obviously, I feel like, these people are going to come back, however, whatever. But just leaving that theater, it's like, that's a kick in the gut. And it's like, wow. But yeah, that's how I felt at the end of Before Sunset. It's just that I know. And then credits. It's just like, oh my goodness. Oh, because it says so much, it's like, and then before midnight, it's like, how do you top, how do you even pick that story back up? And they do, so do. Yeah. I heard rumblings that they were going to make a fourth one. It's like, with anybody else, I'd be terrified. That's kind of how I feel about this Black Panther thing. It's like, I'm scared. I'm terrified it's going to be garbage. But if they gave me Black Panther 2, Wakanda Forever, and Black Panther 3, Wakanda Forever, and then they were talking about a fourth one, I'm like, you know what? I'm terrified, but I believe in you, man. So, I'm just, I don't know if they're going to make a fourth one. Like I think they were just kind of, just talk or whatever. But if Ethan Hawke's up for it, I'm down because, Yeah, but yeah.
I guess let's name the movie right now. I am down for Before Noon.
Yeah, it's like, how do you, before sunrise, sunset, midnight, dawn? Before dawn.
Before dawn.
Before the clock resets.
Yeah.
before daylight savings time or whatever.
We'll see. I do hope to hear that at some point. That it's back. But if not, I'm sure Richard Linklater is going to pull some weirdo movie that he's been making for 25 years out of his butt.
How have you been making? Well, when you only film, for 3 months every, once a year, you can make 10 movies at a time. Sorry for the rambling rant, but I think that covers all of Hawkeye. We didn't talk Hawkeye. Loki's a TV show, right?
Yeah, these are all TV shows. Yeah. I don't know. Like WandaVision, cool. Falcon, Winter Soldier, and then the rest of them kind of like, I don't know, if I find time, I'll watch them.
I don't know. I had WandaVision gave me hope. I don't know. I think the main storyline on WandaVision landed, but everything else was, I don't think that was great. Falcon and the Winter Soldier, I've only watched the first couple episodes. It's just not great to me. So it's
not great.
Yeah. And Hawkeye, we'll see.
I mean, Loki, I want to see our favorite trickster doing tricky things, but that's it.
And then did we discuss What If?
No, I don't. It could be fun. It could be dumb. It could be a lot of things.
Yeah, I don't know. I remember the comics are just kind of, the biggest zaniest. What happens if this? What happens if that? So I think, that could be cool, little one-offs. And
I kind of feel like Marvel doesn't have, the current MCU iteration doesn't quite have the guts that the comic book did. You know what I mean? They got some guts. I don't know, man. Marvel Zombies? Do you think that we're going to see Marvel Zombies?
I mean, look at what they're doing. I mean, Eternals. I mean, I would say they could just continue churning out the same kind of stuff they've been churning out, and that's kind of what the vibe DC is on. Give you something satisfactory but not great. But I feel like Marvel's they're pushing that envelope. They're Eternals. I don't know what that is. And that's interesting, But at the same time, Falcon.
But I do know what Black Widow and I do know what Shang-Chi are probably going to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean,
we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
It's a waiting game.
All right. That was our movie news. And next up is our recommendations. So, Vito, you're our guest. What is your recommendation for the listeners?
My recommendation this week is going to be this TV show on HBO Max right now called Made for Love. This is starring Kristen Milioti, Billy Magnuson, and Ray Romano. Yeah.
Oh, I have heard of this. Yes.
Oh, good. Okay.
When you told me about it earlier, I have no idea what that is, but hearing the Ray Romano name, I was like, oh, okay, I know what this is. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. Go ahead.
No. This is it's a kind of a black comedy sci-fi drama. It's a lot of things all in one, but essentially it's this woman is married to the biggest tech magnate possibly in the history of the universe. And what he has done is he's revolutionized this new program called Made for Love, which and this is just in the first episode, he puts in her head without her knowing. What this does is it syncs her mind to him. He can feel her emotions. He can see what she sees. And once she finds this out, she's obviously horrified and tries to escape, and he goes after her. And so she goes out and reconnects with her father, played by Ray Romano, and they go on this wild adventure trying to get away from the most powerful and most connected man in the world. It's really fun.
So yeah, what's the genre? Is this a horror? What is it?
It is that. It's sci-fi, it's funny, it's sad, it's dramatic, like it's pretty much everything. It's really hard to kind of nail it down. I guess I would just say it's mostly wild. You don't know what kind of genre you're going to get shifted into from scene to scene. Sometimes it's really violent. Sometimes it's incredibly funny. Sometimes you're like kind of disturbed. But it's a big recommend for me. I like shows that kind of swing for the fences in a big way.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I was introduced to this. I knew about the head implants part of it, and I don't. I like the kind of sci-fi element, but past that, I didn't really know kind of how the show, what the vibe of the show is. So I never actually sat down and checked it out. I did, and I'm a big Ray Romano fan. I've seen every episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. I love his dramatic acting stuff. So
Well, I
And
have
I'm
to tell
interested,
you,
but I just haven't pulled the trigger on it.
I have to tell you, this is not any Ray Romano you've ever seen. I'm going to leave it there because there's a big kind of joke / reveal at the end of episode 1. And I don't want to spoil it, but it makes me view Ray Romano in a different way. But check out that first episode. It's a roller coaster. You won't know a half an hour's passed. And at least for me, I couldn't wait to watch another one. So that's what I've been watching. That's what I would recommend.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. That is, say it again.
Made for Love on HBO Max.
Made for Love on HBO Max. All right. My recommendation is a TV show. I'm sure most of you have heard it by now, but a lot of you haven't. It's Invincible on Amazon Prime. It's a animated show. I was about to say cartoon, but I don't think that quite fits the bill. It's an animated show, superhero show. How best to describe it? So it's like if Superman had a son. Well, it starts off as if Superman had a son, how life would be when he gets his powers, and your dad's Superman, you got living a secret life, and blah blah blah. And so that's kind of how it starts to get you into it. But by the end of episode 1, the S hits the F, as they say, and you really just you understand that this is a very violent cartoon. It's not like a I don't know. I really like the animated series.
Batman or Superman from the 90s?
Well, not Batman. The Harley Quinn show on is that HBO Max?
It is
HBO
too,
Max,
yeah.
I believe. Yeah, I really like that show. It's super violent, but it's still funny. It's actually a pretty good written show. Invincible is violent kind of in that sense, but like turned up to the max. It's like superheroes really just beating the crap out of each other. You're seeing the blood, you're seeing the gore, you're seeing, it's got adult themes. It's got cursing. It's got, I'm not trying to, phase you off if you don't like that kind of stuff, but it's a well-written show. You're hooked into it. The animation is kind of, it's iffy, it's kind of lower grade animation, but it's really more about the story and the action, and it's kind of seeing what's going to happen next. You haven't seen anything like this, and I was hooked for episode 1, and it's one of those things where you're just, how is this going to end? It's just episode by episode. You're like, what's going to happen next? And I don't know. I have very few complaints. It's an awesome, if you're tired of the Marvel superhero, everything is, blue and, big blue beaming sky and, all that kind of stuff. If you're tired of that kind of stuff and, you want to see an animated show that just kind of kicks butt, it fits the bill for me, man. I love it. I can't recommend it enough, and hope people check it out.
Yeah, it's very gnarly. That's something I was thinking of when watching it, even watching some of the DC Comics, R-rated animated films that have been coming out. This is on a different level, and it really shows that it's from like the writer of The Walking Dead, Robert Kirkman, where the drama is also scaled all the way up as far as you can go. It's really extreme, but it's so compelling. You're definitely right in pointing that out. I'm a big fan.
Have you watched the whole thing? How much have you seen?
I've seen 3 or 4 episodes at this point. I cannot wait to keep going.
So you know how the needle drops at the end of episode 1. You know what happens then. Yeah, so if you're listening, don't turn the show off when the credits pop up, because right after the credits pop up, that's when stuff gets real.
Because before that, like the way the episode ends, you're like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good episode. I enjoyed that. And then, whoa, no.
You think it's going to be one type of show when the episode ends, and then once you see the credits, you're like, oh, okay, so I know what's about. Yeah, I know what's going on here. So yeah,
good recommend.
Yeah, so that's Invincible on Amazon Prime. So.
I've been hearing some bad things about that new movie they have, Without Remorse, but it's Michael B. Jordan.
It's garbage. Yeah.
So, it's garbage? Oh, no.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Spoiler alert, but yeah, it's not great.
I just wanted to see Michael B., be an action hero in another franchise. That's all I wanted.
So I'm one of the, if you've been listening to this pod, Sterling is the biggest Black Panther fan, so it's like, I don't know what it is. I feel like I didn't like Michael B. Jordan in Creed. Really, I just don't think he's that good of an actor. I think He was born to play Killmonger because that was the best role he's ever done. He was perfect in it. That was just part of making that movie perfect. The reason he exists on this earth was to play Killmonger, and everything else is not good.
Hot takes from Sterling, man. Wow.
Okay. We've been on long enough. Yeah. All right. Let's give the people what they came here for. What's on the title? Let's go into Promising Young Woman.
Whisper something in your ear.
Good God almighty. They put themselves in danger, girls like that.
It was a perverted thing to say.
You'd think you'd learn by that age, right?
Please lay down. What are you doing?
It's okay, hey, you're safe.
What are you doing? Hey, I said, what are you doing?
So I will say to begin this that I have seen the movie 4 times as of this recording, and that's 4 times since January.
So you didn't care for it much.
Exactly. I hated it. So the first time I watched it, I couldn't decide if I hated or loved it, which for me usually means that this is a movie I need to figure out my thoughts on. It's happened a couple times, and those movies I end up usually loving. And that was what the second rewatch was about. And the third rewatch was trying to understand what was so interesting. And the fourth rewatch was me showing it to some really good friends of mine and just trying to see their reaction. Like, am I crazy? Because I watched it twice with me and my wife, and we both kind of had the same reactions in real time. And in the end, I came down really firmly loving this. I think that even if you don't care for the movie itself, what we can agree on is that this is a extremely good performance from Carey Mulligan. I think we can say also that it's an announcement of a really interesting talent in Emerald Fennell, both in directing and writing. I think this movie is very unique in a lot of ways. It doesn't cater to the tropes in ways that I think you might expect it to. I think it can be surprising. And that's what I was really here for, was just this fun ride where I didn't quite know where we were going. When we got there, it felt good. But before it felt good, it felt challenging. I love the music. I love the way that the color palette that she uses. I love Bo Burnham. Man, this guy's so funny.
Yes.
So funny. And I didn't know, I knew he had talent for behind the camera with 8th Grade. I just didn't know that he could play this kind of nuance. I love the casting of all the sitcom guys as real jerks.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. I'm actually more interested to hear what didn't work for you. Because I know it's kind of a polarizing movie, and I've read a lot of reviews from people who were not up on it or thought it was flawed or failed in some way. And I don't know. I'm interested to hear, because for me, it's just a 5 out of 5, and that's rare for me.
Yeah.
Be as harsh as you want, man.
Yeah.
As harsh as you want.
It was none of those things to me that it was to you. It felt very of its time, I guess, is the phrasing I'll use. I don't know, you're saying you kind of it wasn't playing to the tropes, but I felt like it was very predictable. So basic outline, we haven't really discussed the movie yet.
Sure.
Movie is about, forgot her name.
Cassie,
played by Carey Mulligan. She is a coffee shop worker, waitress, barista, whatever you want to call it. She dropped out of med school because her best friend was molested, raped, and sorry, trigger warning. I'm sorry, my apologies to listeners, but yeah, she was raped, and it affected her friend a lot. I'm not going to give away spoilers, kind of what happens in the movie, but one of the reasons she dropped out, and then she's basically, without spoiling, she's
on a quest for revenge.
Yes, she's on a quest, catharsis. She's on a quest for catharsis in her own way, and she has a relationship with Bo Burnham, and things go from there. So just generally speaking, if you've seen the movie, you understand why I'm trying to be vague. But so that's kind of the outline of the movie. And honestly, in the post Me Too era, the post cancel culture, whatever you want to call it, not obviously those things exist for a reason. I'm not trying to belittle them, but it feels very of this era. And I hated the ending more than, I don't know. I think the ending was absolute garbage. And it's just I don't know. I just felt like I saw everything coming. There was no surprises. Except for I was surprised in the end because it was so terrible. It's like I expected it to end one way. This is even worse. So we can discuss that in the post spoiler section. But I don't know. The first 15 minutes of the movie, I felt like I knew what this movie was going to be, and I guess I'm contradicting myself when I say it's predictable, but also say the movie was not what I thought it was going to be in those first 15 minutes because it kind of shifts, a bit to the left, and then kind of halfway through the movie shifts again. But I don't know. I do think it's capital I importance. I do think Carey Mulligan does do some great acting. I don't like the director. I don't like the acting. The music was good. The story just felt so rote and so, I don't know. It just didn't land with me the way it did with you. Like I said, I feel like we can do a deep dive in spoilers. I'm trying to talk in circles, but overall, I feel like it was a fine movie. It was, I didn't, if this movie, I feel like it's not going to age well. I'll put it like that. I feel like 20 years from now, you're going to understand why this movie was made now. And you're going to feel like, yeah, that was kind of the era we were in back then, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know, I'm using the same words a lot, but
it kind of feels like you're saying it's going to become almost like a piece of that cultural context. Like it's not something, and I would agree. I don't think it's something like, for instance, Star Wars or something like Marvel, where it has almost no connection to the time in which it comes out. It feels in that way like it's always existed. It is very much born out of the certain kind of culture where we are hopefully exiting. It's very much born out of those movements that you're pointing to, but also I think this is the part that will age well. It's a very sincere expression of sort of the terror that a lot of women feel from the day to day, just from the presence of some men in their lives, or some men they don't know, some men that they do. And I watched this, like I said, with my wife a couple times, and she said some of it rang true for her. And when I showed it to a few of my friends, they were very shocked by what occurs in the movie, but also in looking across the internet at reviews from people, there's a lot of women standing up and saying like, this is very much something I recognize. Yeah. And I think that's really cool about it. I think that's something that will age very well. Like Lady Bird, I think also is doing something probably in a better way. But it's giving a voice to something that I don't think that we've adequately seen.
Yeah. And I'll get more into it in spoilers, but kind of to that point, I think it's doing that, not ideology, but that concept, that perspective. I feel like it's doing that a disservice by existing in the way that it does.
Interesting. Yeah,
I'm trying to talk in circles, but I feel like that message is ruined by the events of what happens in the movie. It doesn't. I feel like I understand what they were going for. I put it like that. I understand that there are pieces of the movie that, are yes, there are men like that. Yes. I'm glad I'm getting to see this on screen, but I feel like that message is watered down by certain events that happen in the movie. And
it's hard. It's hard not to talk about the ending.
Yeah. My biggest issue is that I feel like there are things that need to be said about this movie. There are ways this movie needs to be championed, and I need to give it kudos, but it's hard for me to do that without getting into spoilers. So hopefully everybody listening to this has already watched it, so I can give a more nuanced take in the spoiler section. But I want to give it credit for getting a lot of things right, but I feel like there are a lot of flaws in it that it just kind of ruined the movie for me, honestly. So, yeah. But yeah, what do you, speaking of Bo Burnham, you mentioned him earlier. I don't know, I love the guy.
I do too.
His stand-up special, Make Happy, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Make Happy and What is the other one? So
before he was making movies, before, he's directing and all that kind of stuff, Make Happy is probably, I'm a big stand-up comedy fan. I love, he's canceled as well, but Louis C.K. is probably one of my favorite comedians. Dave Chappelle, obviously, there are certain guys that are just kind of top tier or whatever. But Bo Burnham's Make Happy, that's got to be in my top 3 favorite stand-up specials of all time. Just because it's not just jokes, it's a message, and you're really kind of seeing who he is. And I don't know, it's a very good special. If you haven't watched it, go check out Bo Burnham Make Happy. It's on Netflix right now. I'm a big Kanye West fan, so like there's a bit at the end where he kind of turns a Kanye West song into part of his performance, and it's just, I don't know, it's funny, and it's I don't know, it's just it ascends, just comedy. It takes a comedy special to a next level. But I really like him as a comedian. I love seeing him in here. His character was really one of the things that. Piece of a spoiler here. I don't know how to say this without saying it. So if you don't want to know anything at all until you watch the movie, come back, for the spoiler section. I'll put the time notes in the show notes. But so about halfway or so through the movie, there's a montage with her and him where it's like happily ever after. And it's like, it made me so sad.
I loved it so much.
It made me depressed because I'm like, you're not going to have a happily ever after 45 minutes into the movie. Obviously, this is not going to go well.
They're singing and dancing in a pharmacy. They're popping potato chip bags, dancing to Paris Hilton.
It just brought dread in me. I was like, oh, this is not going to end well. You can't have a happily ever after with 45 minutes left in the movie. But yeah, so I mean, it's stuff like that where it kind of his character, the idea of the type of guy he is. I feel like that's important to show, but also the choices they made with his character really watered down that message of the type of guy he is or whatever, I don't know. So we'll get to that in the spoilers, but I do need to get into the spoilers so bad. Yeah. So before we get into spoilers, obviously, me personally, I don't want to say it's bad, but I'm really disappointed in the movie. Obviously, a lot of people love it, so I've got to put it in the green on the whether or not you should see it, but it's a well-meaning movie that had terrible execution, in my opinion. So that's my final thoughts on it before we get to spoilers. What about you?
I think that even though I love it, and I don't want to get into like a huge debate about what works and doesn't work, because the movie is thorny and complicated. And I think for that reason especially, it's very important for people to see it. And I don't mean important capital I just mean important because this is not a movie I think that you can have an opinion about unless you actually watch it. It's very experiential. It's not like some of the discourse surrounding Joker where you hear about the movie Joker and you see the screenshots and you read the storyline and you go, oh, okay, that's what it is. It really relies on this surprise. It really relies on the way that it shifts between genres. So I think everyone should watch it just so that they can just weigh in and have an opinion.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. So those are our thoughts on Promising Young Woman pre-spoiler. And from this point forward, spoilers.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
All right. Since I liked it the least, I'll go first here. So my biggest issue is that a story like this, in my opinion, is showing how there are real life evils. Yes, they're evils. They're quote unquote nice guys that do terrible things. The guy that you see on that turns out to be trigger warning a rapist or whatever. It's like that's not always some guy in a dark alley with a hood. Sometimes it's your friend's brother. So it's important to send the message that these are real people living real lives. And I feel like that message is completely watered away by this movie because there are no good guys. I mean, short of maybe her dad, because he's just, a dad. And even still, he's not a great dad. But, there's no gray area. It's all completely black and white. Every guy she goes to a club, she meets at the club. Every guy she speaks with in this movie is a terrible human being, you know? And I feel like that really ruins the message. It's like, in my opinion, it's like, how, when they talk about racists, they talk about the KKK hoodie wearing guys. Those are the racists. I'm not one of those. So I'm not a racist. I feel like there are guys in the real world that do shitty things. And if they watch this movie, they're going to walk away feeling, well, she's not talking about me. I'm not one of those guys, because there's no gray. If there's a little bit more gray in it, if there's a little more guy that, he does something kind of shitty, but, it's just like, he's a shitty guy for doing it, but he isn't an all out rape. If, there needs to be more gray area for it to land better I feel like this movie was for women to have that rah-rah moment, but it's like the point of the movie is not for women to be able to pat themselves on the back. You're supposed to understand that guys like this exist. And part of that message needs to speak to the guys to say, hey, if you're doing this kind of stuff, that's shitty, stop doing that. But if the guys can't see themselves in this movie, that ruins that message. And it's going to continue because, well, I'm not even the whole time you're thinking, Bo Burnham, he's an awesome guy. He's, we're deep in spoiler section now. So, Bo Burnham, guy she went to med school with, he's just the sweetest guy in the world. She spits in his drink. He doesn't care. He likes you anyway. He's going to be the super sweet, take you on a date, blah, blah, blah,
He's
blah,
a child doctor.
Yeah, you can't get better than that, Cassie. So, like, his character, in my opinion, is completely ruined, not by the fact that he was at the rape, I don't know the rape party, I don't know how to phrase that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So his character isn't ruined by the fact that he was at that party, 10 years ago, whatever it was. His character is ruined by when he sees that video, his character flips on a switch. He turns into an asshole. That's why, I think he said something like, that's why you failed out of med school. You're not going to be shit. That's why it's like, and he spits on her. Like that's what stops him being a real person. That's what stops him being a character that you could have seen yourself in, that you could have felt bad about things you've done. He just becomes a cartoon character villain now, because, he was never a good guy. He was always this evil person. He just needed the right blah, blah, blah to bring that out of him. And that, I feel like that ruins the character for me, because before then, he could have been shades of gray. He could have been a guy that did a shitty thing, has grown as a person, blah, blah, blah. But that moment, it's just like, okay, so now there are no good people. It's all comic book villains. So, this movie isn't for you, frat guy who's done something sort of like this back in college. This is just for the evil guys. And then you can, so I don't know. So yeah, I got more thoughts, but I'll let you speak. But yeah, that was my overall, my biggest negative, because there's no gray. It's all black and white. So there are no racist PTA members. It's all just, hey, I'm not a KKK member, so I'm not racist. That was my overall thought. There's no there's no gray. It's all black and white. Every character is the evilist, blah, blah, blah. So it just kind of ruins that message for me, in my opinion.
Yeah. To respond to just a couple of those things, there's a really great podcast episode that New York Times writer Wesley Morris has. Mm-hmm. Pulitzer Prize winning Wesley Morris. Yeah. And
that guy, yeah.
Yeah. He had a really interesting kind of take on this, that this is, to your point about there being no gray area in black and white. Yeah, the only good man here is Jordan Green, played by Alfred Molina. And that's because he is repentant, but he was shitty and is corrected. Right. And so what Wesley proposed is that this is a fairy tale.
Yeah. And
in those fairy tales, there's a sort of easy morality to this. And I think that easy morality carries over. I don't think that on its face, it's even meant to be very nuanced. I don't think it's trying to be. And if it was, I would wonder, but I don't think that's there in the text of the movie. Yeah. And so when you're looking for the gray area, I think the point that Emerald Fennell is making with this is that Cassie exists in a world where there seemed to be no positive masculine force at all. And the only one that is good is one that has repented of its poor action. I think it would just be a fundamentally different movie if it accepted of a gray area. And I really would like to see that too, but I guess that in my view, that wasn't the movie.
I mean, sure, but to give a counter to that, how do you see yourself then? If it's just a fairy tale, how do you point out that, yes, this happens to me in real life? Yes, there are guys I know that, I've had this experience at parties. I've had this experience with guys. If at the end of the day, the movie stops being something that happens in real life and starts just being a fairy tale, I feel like that
I feel like all fairy tales are about real life, though.
Sure. Yeah. But they're, I don't know. To me, it takes taking, like, I guess kind of to what you're saying, it becomes a different movie, but I feel like it didn't take much for this to not be a fairy tale.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
I think it's part of her message, though, too, right? Is that it's like, this is so nightmarish and bad, but it's really kind of close to where we might be at. And it's just one woman's opinion, you know?
Yeah, I know. And like I said, I'm a guy, so, take my opinion with a grain of salt, but it just, I don't know. I feel like to me personally, this movie would have landed a whole lot harder if you can walk away saying, I see this, in my life, or, I've been that guy, or blah, blah, blah. And I just feel like when you make it a fairy tale, that just adds a layer between, obviously, that reality, it's just, it stops being this kind of stuff happens in real life and starts being, it's just one of those movies, so I don't know.
Sure. I think it's trying to, trying to straddle that line that you're pointing out. I think it's really trying to do that. And for me, it's actually the other thing that you said, when it's going to tie into this, is when you said that Bo Burnham kind of becomes a cartoon villain. And this is, again, this movie is weird because it's very personal how every person reads this, right? And whether or not it works. But I've had some very uncomfortable confrontations with people who did terrible things and pretended to be good. And watching Bo Burnham go through that weird little shift from the person that you thought you knew to the person that they really were, I've actually seen that happen. And it's terrifying and it's gross. And it's really upsetting. So when that happened, for me, actually, instead of pushing me away, that brought me even further into the movie, was because I saw something very real that I had experienced. And basically every turn where, like, because I've seen some of these shitty guys. I've seen some of these guys. It was enough to, like, get me to buy into the premise. And then every time it wanted me to just get a little more disbelief, suspend the disbelief a little more. I felt like they earned it by showing me something I had also seen in real life. And the further I went into this, like, dark hell of Cassie's revenge, the more invested I became. Because I bought the reality in the fantasy. Yeah.
I understand. Like I said, I don't knock you for that opinion. Obviously, a lot of people felt that way, and it did land better, for a lot of people than it did me. So I'm not, what's the phrasing? I'm not trying to yuck your yum. I'm not trying. If you're enjoying it, I'm not trying to shit on your parade.
Of course, I'm not taking it that way at all.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd rather, like I said, we're talking about hypotheticals about what the movie could have been, but in my, to use my metaphor again, in my racism movies, I prefer real race. I want racism I've seen. I want the racist people I know, the people I went to high school with that I thought were one type of people, and 10 years later on Facebook, they're saying this and that. I want to see, I prefer that level of realism because it lands better to me on what I see in real life. And I understand, women have seen men like this in real life, but I feel like I just like that gray area better because the realism is more affecting to me personally. But yeah.
Sure. And it's a completely fair reading of the movie to have. That it's just like, even what you're saying, I know guys who I was friends with, and then 5-10 years later on Facebook, or from hearing from other people, I hear that they've done these things, and to people that I knew, and all that kind of just, I guess it was just like the perfect storm of all these events and all these memories that I had, and all these conversations I was having with women and with other men too in my life. Dredging up some of the terrible things that have happened to them in seemingly innocuous, banal circumstances, like a party, like a get together, like a night out after a bar. And again, all those came together in one swoop for me to make me thoroughly reject the movie and then want to re-examine it and come back to it. And now thoroughly love and enjoy it. But I really loved hearing your side of it, because it's funny that we're almost using the same exact words, but that's why it didn't work for you and why it worked for me. Yeah. And it's like, you didn't have that sort of experience, but you had it in this other realm. And I haven't, I mean, like I'm a man of Hispanic and Italian descent, but I've had some racist comments directed at me, but not to like a really extreme extent. I'm also a man. I'm not a woman. Yeah. So I don't have that experience either. I only know some of this stuff a little bit secondhand. Yeah. But just knowing what I know, I was thoroughly shocked by the message. Yeah,
I understand. And like I said, that's, again, me being a man. That's why you got to kind of take my opinion with a grain of salt, because, if I was a woman, I would probably be seeing the guys do the shitty things, and that would, I would see my life in it more. Me personally, I'm looking at it from the perspective of the shitty guy who may have not, I feel like if you're a rapist, you're a shitty guy, but there's that gray area guy that if you watch this and it ends a different way, or if it has, those little tweaks I'm talking about, if Bo Burnham reacts just, as a regular guy who's kind of changed, but he's kind of, if he's just shitty in his response without being, as I said, cartoon character villain, a guy who's done that gray area stuff may walk away from this movie reflecting on their life and thinking, well, maybe that thing I did was fucked up and blah, blah, blah. But I feel like because the movie does kind of end the way it does and has that straight up black and white kind of message, I feel like that guy is going to walk away from it. They're not talking about me kind of thing. But
sure. Like he gets off scot-free because he didn't smother a woman to death and burn her body.
Speaking of, let's get into the ending now, because that's my biggest gripe. I feel like if it would have ended different, everything else I'm saying up to this point, I could have forgiven and may have felt more the way you felt. But because the ending was this, it made absolutely no sense in my opinion, over the top evil stuff. That's why the movie it completely went from, maybe an 8 to like a 6. The ending just completely ruined any goodwill I had for what the movie was trying to say. If for some reason you're listening to this and haven't watched the movie and you're just curious about our thoughts, as I said, her friend was raped previously. She ended up committing suicide, and turns out her romantic interest, Bo, was at that party. He was one of the people drinking, watching, just kind of letting it happen. And he turned out to be a shitty asshole, spit in her face once she confronted with him. And then end of the movie, she, after confronting Bo, finding the video, as her plan is to dress up as a stripper. She goes to the rapist he's getting wed in his bachelor party.
Al Monroe.
She pretends to be the stripper. She laces everyone's alcohol with like a sleeping agent. So they all drink the shots. They pass out. She goes upstairs with him. Her plan is to have him chained to the bed, carve rapist, or, carve
Nina.
Nina in his chest, so that'll always be a part of him. He ends up breaking free with one arm, smothering her with a pillow. And then our buddy, oh my gosh,
Schmidt.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out his name in the movie. Schmidt playing, I don't know, he is perfect in the douchebag frat guy role. But yeah, so he comes upstairs. Their plan is, I guess he's the first one to wake up. Everybody else is still asleep. They somehow get her body out. They bury it. They dig a hole, set her on fire, pretend nothing ever happened. Then what she did was she had a suspended message. She mailed the videotape that she got of her being her friend being raped to that Alfred Molina character we spoke about earlier. He takes it to the police. They come on the wedding day. Everybody goes to jail. The end. So that was incredibly dumb. That was incredibly dumb, in my opinion, because first and foremost, he, I don't know, for lack of a better term, got away with rape from back when he was in college, right? So he's not a wanted man for the police. She drugs his friends, ties him up, and plans on carving in his chest with I think a scalpel or whatever tool. when he suffocates her and kills her, technically, legally, that is self-defense. If they wouldn't have been idiots, if they would have just called the police, she's the friend of, the girl that he raped back in the day. So, they could have said it was an accused rape, or blah. She just wanted revenge, blah, blah. They could have explained it however to the police and got away scot-free for murdering her. It's like, so her plan was like from the beginning, she's literally assaulting him. If his murder or his killing her could have completely got away with it scot-free if he just called the police, so they had to be super dumb on top of that by trying to bury a body in 2021 or 2020, whatever it is. It's like CSI, man. You're not going to set a body on fire and just kind of get away with it. But I don't know, just the plan was just, it made no sense to me personally. I know you're going to defend it. I feel like whatever, but it was so over the top, silly, cartoonish. And then, Cassie coming back from the dead with I secretly mailed off the videotape just in case you killed me, but just in case you killed me and buried the body instead of calling the police because I tried to assault you, So I feel like that this movie, in a realistic, I understand this is it's a movie, whatever, but in a realistic sense, they could have got away with it and she would have been, I hate phrasing it this way, she would have been at fault. They could have got away with it. And even if that videotape would have got mailed, who knows how it would have ended. But it's just, I don't know, just the convolutedness of that plan. It just, I don't know. It was a real, it really didn't work for me considering the rest of this movie, how it worked out. I don't know. Yeah. So sorry to ramble, but
I don't have much of a defense.
Yeah.
But all I will say in response, is just, I don't think that she went to that cabin with any idea that she was going to win. Yeah. I think that she went almost like a twofold thing. I think that she couldn't handle this life anymore.
Yeah.
Bo Burnham's betrayal was it. She opened herself up to a person possibly for the first time since Nina, and this is what happened.
Yeah.
And I think that she as a character is too burdened to be carrying this anymore. And in a way, it's almost like suicide by murder, right?
Yeah.
She just wants more than anything to take this guy down. And so she just throws her best bet at it and is like, fuck it. Let's see what happens. Yeah. Maybe I'll do it. Maybe it'll work out for me. But I don't think the very fact that she scheduled a text message and sent the package off and then planted also the other half of the locket inside of the cash register for her boss to find.
Yeah.
I think all that speaks to the fact that she knew this was a no-sum game. The plan is dumb because she knows the plan won't work. Because as the director Emerald Fennell said, though, like she said, I just played this over and over in my head. There's no draft of this script that exists where Cassie doesn't die. She dies, and even if he's not brought to justice by the police, this will ruin him. This will ruin him professionally, and that's all she's after. She's after the humiliation, the embarrassment. That's the revenge for her, is the shame. She wants them to feel shame for something. So I agree. It's a dumb plan. And I think she knows it. And it's just rolling straight ahead. Yeah. And like a sacrificial lamb being led to the slaughter, she is going willingly. That's my only defense.
That part I agree with. I mean, I feel like as she obviously had to be mentally broken to be doing what she was doing with the guys at the beginning, and then the Bo Burnham thing just snapped at like a twig. I understand that she was done. Bo Burnham's reaction is just like, what kind of therapy heals you from that? That's 10 years of struggling and trying and like to be healed from something. Like I don't know the mental mountain it would take to. So I understand she was broken, but that was it. Just like I feel like there was a better. I don't know. Again, we're making the movie something it wasn't. I'm critiquing a hypothetical, but I just the convolutedness of the plan and the fact that it worked. It just I don't know. It just I feel like that.
I think that speaks to the fairy tale nature of it, how it just ends. Like the sirens are coming, the cops are coming for the first time in a movie in like 20 years. The arrival of sirens is like a good thing. But they're coming in and they get the bad guys and Max Greenfield. Schmidt runs off cartoonishly in the bushes like a monster, and then we all get to go home happy as Angel of the Morning plays, right?
Yeah. Honestly, it makes me feel better to think of it as the her imagining, kind of the Inception, the fan ending of Inception, where he didn't really end that way. That was his fantasy, whatever. It makes me feel better as a viewer thinking that this was her fantasy viewing or fantasy imagining of how everything turned out. Maybe realistically, he killed her, and then Schmidt came upstairs, and they said, "I got a great lawyer. Let's call the police. We'll figure this out." And
sure,
maybe it ends that way.
That's definitely what would happen
in real life. And then this is just kind of that's the only way that kind of it makes better sense to me, and I'm more comfortable with it because, like I said, it is just so over the top, and as you said, fantasy, and it's just. But I mean,
I have one last thing about that death, if you don't mind me interrupting you. The ending of this movie, I've gone back and forth to thinking maybe the death is cruel. Like, it's a cruel thing for the filmmakers to do to the audience. Because it just certainly felt like a blow. But it's almost like her dying at their hands, and the terrible way that they cover it up is almost a joke on how bad and evil they are. And how stupid, right? These guys are doctors. And lawyers, like, they have PhDs, and instead of calling daddy or calling the lawyers, their big solution is to burn the stripper. Like, this is also every cliche of every bachelor party. When the stripper comes, the stripper dies. And I think in that way, it is functioning as a comedic bit. Even if, like, the moment it happens, you're just like cringing inside, like, oh, please don't make this funny. That's like sort of last thought I had. I don't know. Does that strike anything with you?
Yeah, like I said, fitting with that fantasy thing I was just saying, I feel like that is maybe what the filmmaker was going for. That it's just so over the top, and it is the stripper cliche, and that's why it's poetic or what have you. But in my opinion, the film being, I don't know, realistic or whatever it was, up to, maybe the Bo Burnham spit point, that the realism is washed away when you make it the fantasy at the end, And I don't know, fantasy is an ugly word to use with this kind of situation, but when it becomes that, it just washes away that groundwork you laid for, this is real life, this really happens, these kind of guys exist. It kind of washes that away from me when you just make it, so fantastical, in my opinion. But again, like I said, we've been
good thoughts.
Yeah.
I agree. I agree with that reading of the movie entirely. Like, this is such a personal kind of thing. It's personal, and I respect your opinion. You elucidated it very well.
Indeed, yours as well. Like I said, I know many people felt like you do, and I have no qualms with it. But so those are our thoughts on Promising Young Women. As I mentioned in the beginning, what I thought a good way of ending all of our episodes is us as people, as humans, not just this podcasters talking about movies or whatever, us just giving you a nugget of something that you can enjoy in your real life, something non-movie related or movie related, whatever it is, just something we can drop to you that you may not know about, something that you can go learn about, or just something to bring you enjoyment in your life. So that's how I want to end these. Vito, I told you about that earlier. Is there something you want to give to the viewers? Something you want to let them know about?
Yeah, I do. It's another podcast, non-movie related. It's called 60 Songs That Explain the 90s. It's a one-man podcast where he has 60 songs. We don't know what all 60 songs are yet. It's a weekly show. He usually does about 20 to 30 minutes where he sort of talks about the songs, the lyrics inside of them, talks about the bands, where they sit in context of the 90s. He's very funny. His name is Rob Harvilla. He's incredibly engaging, very smart. Then he brings on a guest that has some specialty in the song or the artist, and they really do a deep dive into it. And they finish by actually just playing you the song. And they intersperse it with little clips from the song to like keep you in the mode. So they've done episodes. One of the most recent episodes I listened to was "Crash Into Me" from Dave Matthews Band, which is like a fantastic episode. But they've also done A Tribe Called Quest, their song "Scenario." They did Pulp with Common People. They did the Ghetto Boys, Mind Playing Tricks on Me. They did Enter Sandman for Metallica. It's a 1 hour show. It is fast. It's light. It's breezy. He's such an exemplary podcast host that he can hold your attention, just him. And I aspire one day to be able to speak that clearly and that interestingly. But he's fantastic. Again, 60 songs that explain the 90s. Rob Harvilla. It's a Ringer podcast. You can find it anywhere you get podcasts.
The Ringer is killing it, man. I've never heard of that podcast, but I listen to all kind of Ringer stuff. So, man, they've Bill Simmons is earning that Spotify money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna have to check that out again. I'm a picky podcast. I listen to Hardcore History. It's 4 hours podcast blocks of just like stuff I really don't, I've never heard about. Not necessarily just something I'm seeking out, but Dan Carlin makes it interesting. It makes you want to hear 4 hours of 4 hours of history podcasting. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So, okay. So my recommendation is a video game. Well, a video gaming experience. I don't know how to describe it exactly. It is called Before Your Eyes. It is available on Steam.
What is this?
Yes, it is again, it's a video game because in the sense that you play it, but the way that you play the video game is by blinking. So what you're going to need is a webcam. You're going to need a PC. It hooks up to your the game connects to your webcam as you play it. You're going to have to kind of sync your eyes when you first start. It's telling the story of a life. And it's kind of I'm not giving it away, but it makes you feel about how those moments are things you enjoy or past memories you have that phrase, it's gone in the blink of an eye. So in the video game, it's telling a story of a life, and there are situations where you want to see what happens, or it's a moment that you're enjoying, but you can't help but blink your eyes. Sometimes you just got to blink. You got to whatever it is. And as soon as you blink, it moves on to the next moment. And this is like causing my hands to sweat, dude. So it's not like a horror. It's I don't even want to say the genre, but again, it tells a story of a life. And without saying too much more, it kind of broke me.
Sounds like a heartbreaking game.
Yeah, it's I don't know, especially if you're a parent.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that.
It's like I want to tell you more so that you convince yourself to buy it. How much is it on Steam? I know it was only it's $10, $9.99 on Steam, and honestly, you spent $10 on worse, man. Whoever this is listening, you spent $10 on worse, especially if you have a PC, laptop, whatever. If you have a webcam, I heartily recommend it. It's kind of it's old school style animation. It's not it's not a AAA game or whatever. It's probably a 90-minute experience, and I do recommend you block off 90 minutes this time and play it the whole way through. I believe you use a mouse for a bit. Yeah, there's a piece of it where kind of tutorial. Occasionally you have to use a mouse to kind of click on this and that, but the majority of the game is played by blinking, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Yeah, the game's called Before Your Eyes. It's on Steam. It's by Goodbye World Games, and it's powerful. I'll put it like that. It's especially if you're a parent, it's one of those. Sometimes you watch movies that you here we go. Here was my review. I'm going to describe it like this. Here was the actual review I put on. There are those times that you've got a migraine. You've got a migraine headache. You go to your fridge, you go to your freezer, you grab a bag of peas, you lean down your neck and you put those peas on the back of your head and you feel amazing. Those peas they wash away that pain. Your body feels cool. You feel better than you would have felt had you not had a migraine. This game is like that bag of peas. It is so hard to recommend that bag of peas to someone because you're going to have to go through that migraine to get that feeling. And how do you tell somebody that you recommend them getting a migraine? It's just because you can't feel that joy without feeling that pain, so that's the best way I can describe it. It's $10. It's 90 minutes of your time. Before Your Eyes. You can get it on Steam. That's my recommendation.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a recommendation. I'm going to buy it.
I'm pretty like if you buying it is all that, all that comes from me expressing it, then it's been more than worth it. Like I said, and one of the things about Steam is if you played Steam video games, if you play less than 2 hours, you can get your money back, no questions asked. And a lot of people abuse that system with this particular game because it's only like a 90-minute, even if it's just under 2 hours experience, it's still powerful. Some of the reviews or even say that was so powerful, but I still ask for my money back because I played less than 2 hours. And that's a shitty thing to do. But like I said, so if me telling you that is counteracting one of those reviews that people that got their money back, then it was worth it. I want to thank the video game makers for that experience by sharing this with other people. So yeah, Before Your Eyes, it is on Steam. That has been an episode of My Movie Fix podcast. Again, I'm Sir. Where can people find you and your work?
Yeah, they can find all of our episodes of Not Your Father's Movies at NYFmovies.com. They can also find us anywhere you find podcasts at all. And just search Not Your Father's Movies. We're also on Twitter at NYF Movies, on Instagram, we're on Facebook. We're on Reddit too. So come interact with us. Shoot us an email, notyourfathersmovies@gmail.com. We're ready to hear from you. And if you come from My Movie Fix, let me know. I'd love to give Sterling some support, and you'll hear him on our show here soon as well.
Indeed. All right. For our first official episode of My Movie Fix, thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.